High school corridors are often filled with energy, students laughing, lockers. But for one teenager, a single text message from an unknown number was the start of something terrifying. It looked like a random text at first. "Hey, do you remember me?" Harmless on the surface, but behind that glowing phone screen was a manipulator who had studied the art of digital deception. The student, whom we'll call Emily for privacy, was popular, outgoing, and active online. Like most teens, she shared snippets of her life through photos, captions, and posts. Unknowingly, she also shared pieces of herself that could be pieced together by a stranger with bad intentions. That stranger created a fake identity and slipped into Emily's world, pretending to be someone she could trust. At first, the texts seemed friendly. Compliments, inside jokes, even fake mutual connections. Slowly, the anonymous texter escalated, testing Emily's boundaries with more personal questions. Compliments morphed into control. "If you really like me, you'll do this." Casual chats became daily pressures, until Emily's phone felt less like a lifeline and more like a leash. Her parents noticed subtle changes. The once bright girl grew quiet and withdrawn. She spent hours locked in her room, staring at her screen, shoulders tense with anxiety. When her phone buzzed, instead of smiling, she flinched. What her family didn't know was that Emily was trapped in a psychological game designed to... The unknown number started making threats. "If you don't reply, I'll share your secrets with everyone." Attached were fabricated screenshots that looked dangerously convincing. To Emily, it felt like her entire reputation was on the line. Terrified, she obeyed, convinced she had no escape. This is where the line between bullying and crime blurred. The manipulator wasn't just teasing or mocking, they were extorting, blackmailing, and emotionally torturing a teenager through her own phone. For Emily, the walls of her high school closed in, leaving her suffocated by fear and shame. Everything changed when one of her closest friends discovered disturbing messages on Emily's phone. Alarmed, the friend reported it to a trusted adult, and the case eventually reached local authorities. What began as a teen, detectives specializing in digital forensics were brought in. They knew that behind every anonymous text was a trace, a footprint, something that could be uncovered. And as they peeled back the layers of fake profiles and encrypted accounts, they realized Emily wasn't the only victim. The predator behind the unknown number had built a web, multiple victims, multiple identities, all controlled by one hidden manipulator. The story of Emily's silent suffering is chilling because it shows how quickly a teenager's digital life can be hijacked by someone invisible. But this case wasn't just about one victim. It was about exposing a predator who, when authorities stepped in, they quickly realized that this was not a typical high school bullying case. The manipulator was clever, hiding behind fake numbers, burner accounts, and encrypted apps. But investigators knew one thing: every digital move leaves a trace. Detectives obtained Emily's phone records, cross-checked the IP addresses, and began tracing connections. At first, the trail seemed like a maze. Numbers bounced through multiple servers, accounts linked to untraceable usernames, and photos stolen from unrelated social media profiles. But experts in cyberforensics are trained to untangle such webs. The investigation revealed that the anonymous texter had been using voice over internet protocol, VoIP numbers, making it appear as though the text came from different phones. These numbers masked the real identity, but each left behind fragments of metadata. By analyzing timestamps, geolocation hints, and network what shocked investigators most was the scale of the operation. This wasn't just Emily. At least 4 other teenagers from nearby schools had reported receiving similar anonymous texts, each tailored to exploit their personal insecurities. The manipulator wasn't improvising. They had built a system. Detectives interviewed Emily, who bravely shared every detail. Though scared, she understood that her testimony could protect others. She explained how the texts shifted from flattering to threatening, and how the fear of exposure drove her into isolation. Each detail she gave helped authorities map the manipulator's psychological tactics. Digital analysts then followed a breakthrough. One of the fake profiles used an image that hadn't been scrubbed completely. Embedded within the photo's metadata was a clue, a location tag from a device that had once uploaded the picture. It pointed investigators to a nearby town. Slowly, the unknown number was becoming less unknown. The suspect had grown arrogant, believing they could hide forever behind screens. But technology was catching up. Meanwhile, the community was on edge. Parents held emergency meetings at schools, warning students not to interact with anonymous accounts. Teachers reported a rise in anxiety among teens, many of whom feared they might be the next target. What began as Emily's personal nightmare had become a community-wide panic. Still, the manipulator continued. Texts grew more aggressive. They mocked the investigation, sending chilling lines like, "You'll never find me. I own this game." For detectives, this was both taunting and motivating. They were determined to prove that no predator is truly invisible online. By the end of weeks of digital tracing, the picture was becoming clearer. The data pointed towards someone disturbingly close to the victims' lives. Not a distant hacker. The deeper detectives dug, the clearer the picture became. The manipulator wasn't operating from some distant city. It was someone living within the same community. A predator hiding in plain sight. Investigators traced the IP address of one of the fake accounts to a local internet provider. Cross-checking login times against cell tower data, they identified a short list of potential users. What stunned them was the realization. The prime suspect wasn't an adult stranger, but someone shockingly close in age to the victims. The unknown number belonged to an older student from a neighboring school, someone who blended easily into teenage life. Outwardly, he appeared normal, quiet in class, rarely causing trouble. But behind the screen, he lived a double life, manipulating and tormenting peers through carefully constructed lies. This revelation was disturbing. Catfishing is often associated with anonymous strangers online, but in this case, the predator weaponized familiarity. He understood teenage routines, social pressures, and insecurities. That knowledge made his manipulations far more effective. When detectives confronted him, his initial reaction was denial. But digital evidence is hard to argue with. Logs, IP traces, screenshots, and metadata formed an ironclad case. His laptop contained folders of fake profiles, stolen pictures, and detailed notes about victims. What scared them, what flattered them, and how best to control them. The suspect's methods revealed a chilling level of planning. He would observe potential targets online, gather information, then approach them through an anonymous number. Once trust was established, he escalated, turning digital friendships into tools of psychological control. His goal wasn't money or fame, it was power. The community was shaken. Parents who thought their children were safe discovered how fragile that sense of security truly was. Classmates were horrified that someone they might have passed in the hallway was capable of such cruelty. Emily, while relieved that the identity was uncovered, struggled with mixed emotions. The betrayal cut deep, and the knowledge that someone so close could cause such pain made recovery even harder. In court, prosecutors framed the case not just as bullying, but as a deliberate campaign of emotional abuse. They argued that the suspect exploited the anonymity of technology to inflict real, lasting harm. The defense tried to paint it as teenage immaturity, but the evidence spoke louder. This was intentional, calculated, and malicious. The case became a landmark in showing how catfishing and cyberbullying crossed the line into criminal behavior. It forced schools, parents, and law enforcement to recognize that the courtroom was packed. Journalists, parents, students, and concerned citizens filled the benches. This wasn't just another juvenile case. It had become a symbol of the growing threat of cyberbullying turned criminal. Prosecutors presented the case with precision. They showed screenshots of threatening texts, digital trails proving the suspect's identity, and victim testimonies describing the emotional toll. Each message was displayed on a screen, highlighting how words sent from a phone could cut as deeply as physical violence. Emily took the stand. Her voice trembled at first, but she spoke with courage. She described the fear of hearing her phone buzz, the sleepless nights, the weight of feeling trapped. Her testimony humanized the case, showing the jury that this wasn't about teenage drama. It was about psychological torment that left lasting scars. The defense argued that the suspect was just a kid, too immature to understand the consequences. They claimed it was a prank gone too far, not a criminal scheme. But the evidence told another story. The meticulous notes, the organized fake profiles, the deliberate threats. This wasn't immaturity, it was methodical manipulation. Legal experts faced a challenge. Laws against cyberbullying existed, but cases like this blurred lines. Was it harassment, blackmail, or something darker? The prosecution pushed for the harshest interpretation, arguing that the intent to cause emotional harm made it criminal. The jury deliberated for hours. When the verdict came, the courtroom held its breath. Guilty. The suspect was convicted on multiple counts of harassment, extortion, and cyberstalking. The sentence included both time in a juvenile facility and mandatory rehabilitation. For Emily and the other victims, it was validation. Their suffering had been acknowledged. But justice felt complicated. Some parents questioned whether the sentence was enough. Others worried about how many more predators were out there, hiding behind screens. The case sparked national conversations. Experts discussed how technology empowers predators and how the legal system must adapt. Schools began introducing new programs about digital safety. Parents demanded stricter monitoring of anonymous apps. Emily's courage in testifying became a beacon for others. Survivors of cyberbullying reached out, inspired by her strength. For her, the journey wasn't over. Healing would take time. The trial ended, but the impact of the high school Catfish case lingered long after the courtroom emptied. For Emily, recovery meant rebuilding her sense of trust. Therapy sessions, supportive friends, and family became her anchors. Slowly, the community also changed. Schools introduced digital literacy programs, teaching students how to recognize red flags online. Teachers emphasized that bullying, even behind a screen, can have devastating real-world consequences. Parents became more vigilant, setting boundaries and encouraging open conversations about online interactions. The case was covered widely, sparking debates across the country. Was the punishment enough? Should cyberbullying be treated as seriously as physical assault? Experts argued that this case proved psychological abuse through technology can be equally damaging. Law enforcement agencies also adapted. They began investing more in cyber forensic units, training officers to track digital footprints and identify hidden predators. Prosecutors studied the case as a model for handling future cybercrime trials. Most importantly, the victims were not forgotten. Emily and others received support not only from their families but also from strangers who had followed the case. Letters of encouragement poured in, reminding them that they were not alone. The story of the unknown number serves as a chilling reminder that technology, while powerful, can also be weaponized. It highlights the importance of digital awareness, parental involvement, and strong legal frameworks. Today, Emily's story continues to resonate because it touches on universal fears, the loss of control, the invasion of privacy, and the betrayal of trust. But it also offers hope that with courage, community, and justice, even the darkest manipulation can be confronted. The high school Catfish case will be remembered not only for the pain it caused, but also for the awareness it created. It forced society to look at cyberbullying not as kids being kids, but as a crime with real victims and real consequences. For every teenager scrolling through their phone, this story is a warning. Be cautious, be aware, and remember that not everyone online is who they claim to be. And for every kid, to listen and to act when something feels wrong.